As we mentioned in previous videos, we are now going to explore change of base of support. Why would we do something like this with a kettlebell? Well, let's bring it to something else that we're all very familiar with. You see, when people have restrictions in their bodies for their squats, they quite often put plates under their heels or used raised heeled lifting shoes. This allows the muscles that are in a shortened or a restricted state to move more freely, allowing someone greater depth without pushing their body to a point of injury because they're trying to force it into a spot that it's not capable of doing. So we're going to utilize the same sort of thought pattern here with the change in base of support. And this is the one thing that makes our course unique and has made it unique since 2013 when we've been using this concept. You can see here as I place my foot up onto the plate and I come down into my rack squat, it allows me to get into a greater depth into my squat compared to the opposing side. This also allows me to activate more of the muscles in my squat that may or may not be working depending on my body's restrictions. But also too, as I push up, it allows me to get up to a point of where I'm capable of staying balanced. And yes, you may not be able to finish off your squat all the way straight and tall on the side that is on the step or the weight plate that you may be using, but for here this isn't important. What's important out of this is it allows us to achieve a greater depth to help free up the muscles of the hips, but also to help activate the muscles that may be lying dormant within our normal squats. So now, when we come along, we can utilize this same thought process with the kettlebell swing. We can have one foot up on to the object that we're using to create our base difference, and this can now allow us to have a much better hinge with our swing. You'll see at times where people, when they are restricted through their ankles or their hips, that they will then compensate in their swings and their backside may drop down rather than going straight back into the hinge as it should do. So here, utilizing this, it can allow us to activate the muscles that we are trying to get to happen in these exercises that we're working with. Now, if we added, say, just the base of an aerobic step, so it's only 1, maybe 2 inches high, we can start to now swing going forward up onto our step and back coming off our step. Or we can swing with our feet together up and over the step. Why would we do something like this? One, it's a messaging point externally on the body. I have found time and time again teaching this in our course that this helps people to nail the movement of being able to go side to side or forward and back because they know they have to concentrate harder to go to the point that they need to. It helps them gain coordination and control of the exercise that they're looking at doing. But what it also does is it creates an extra level of coordination. It helps them to learn extra dynamic balance. It helps them to learn how to produce and reduce force a lot better. There is ground force reactions, and it gives them better proprioception. So while it may look crazy on the outside, there are strict benefits as to why you would work with a change of base of support. This ideology has come from our learnings over the years in power bands training and us teaching power bands to people as well. Because one of the key concepts from power bands is to change your base of support to therefore make the exercise more difficult. This is one way you can do instability training without necessarily having to train on sand or Bosu balls or whichever way you look. Now that's not to say that you can't use things like Bosu balls. If done safely and correctly, there are a lot of benefit to utilising instability training, but you must be smart about which way you are programming this for your clients, knowing their physical capabilities and their limitations, as well as also their mental limitations as well, because this is going to be a big key thing as to whether they are going to do this safely or not. Don't throw it in there simply because it looks cool and is going to get a lot of Instagram likes. Program first, master the traditional. I cannot stress this enough. Move into integrated movement level 1, which is learning how to move on the ground with no objects around you, as taught in the previous videos. And then here, after they have followed the process and they have mastered the exercises, move into integrated movement level 2, utilizing the change in base of support. Changing base of support is not limited to just adjusting where your feet are in relation on the ground using weight plates or steps. What we can also do is come down onto one knee and take our base of support all the way down to the ground. Kneeling on both knees or coming into a single knee stance here can change completely what we experience in an exercise. Here we take out our lower body stability and power and make it more focused in the trunk as well as the upper body. We can still utilize our hips to create swings throughout these movements, as well as just coming into our regular presses. So what we can utilize this for is an assessment process to see where people are deficient and what we need to work on. If they are unable to press the kettlebell overhead from this position, we know that there is a lacking area throughout their shoulder and their trunk. If they're able to press it when they're standing up with good form, then you know their lower half really comes in to help support and assist their upper half in creating the movement. The same thing can be said for things like your swings. Coming down in this position and swinging from here, if they're not able to display some form of a hip hinge, then you know that there is an issue throughout their hips and their trunk. But if they can do it when they're standing up to a degree, then you know that their lower half of their body is able to complete the movement, and you're able to start diagnosing where the issues and the dysfunctions are in someone, allowing you to be able to start fixing those processes as you go through. So utilizing your change in base of support can be a really important assessment tool, as well as a progression and regression tool for your training.